Good afternoon, and today we shall be going to the second part. That means the Act 2 of Birthday Party by Harold Pinter. So in Act 2, the situation is getting climactic more and more. The kind of apparent simplicity that we had in Act 1, we don't find in Act 2. Rather, Act 2 begins with a bit tension. It begins with a kind of a uh, critical uh, disposition of the characters. It begins with McCann. McCann is tearing the newspaper in 5 equal strips, and you know, and very soon we find that McCann is in conversation with Stanley, and the conversation may apparently seem to us it's going well, and there is a very good understanding between the two characters, McCann and Stanley. But we know that it is not so easy as it apparently thinks so. And the moment we see the conversation is moving on, um, somehow we find in Act 2 Stanley as a character who is more tensed, always in a confusion, always cross-examining himself. And that's why we find that very significant exchange of dialogues between uh, Stanley and McCann happen in Act 2, at the very beginning of Act 2. Uh, because Stanley is very curious whether he met McCann early before or not. But McCann's reply was something, I don't think we have met. Stanley, no, we haven't. My name is McCann. Staying here long? Not long. What's your name? Stanley is replying, Weber. I'm glad to meet you, sir. And McCann offers his hand. Stanley takes it. McCann holds the grip. Many happy returns of the day. Stanley withdraws the hand. They face each other. Why are you going out? Yes. So here comes the kind of a question. On the day of birthday, when everything is planned that they are going to organize a birthday party over there, Stanley, just like an escapist, would like to go away from the place. Rather, he would like to prefer to be alone. He is in no way in a mood to attend the birthday party. Why is it so? It's only because he is sensing, he has already started sensing that something wrong is going to happen. Something is not very fine. Something is not okay happening over there. Then the curious McCann is asking Stanley, on your birthday, you are leaving the house, leaving the boarding house. Why? Stanley replies, why not? But they are holding a party here for you tonight. Oh, really? And we find Stanley is remarking something that is very, it's a matter of discussion. Oh, really? That is unfortunate. Now, when someone arranges birthday party, how can this be unfortunate? Is it so that Stanley is already started sensing that these characters, they are not as they appear to seem? They are actually in disguise, or they are making something, they are going to do something horrible, and that will be very serious as a threat for the existence of Stanley over there? Is it the reason that Stanley deliberately wants to avoid attending his own birthday party? And that's why Stanley spontaneously remarks that such a birthday party that they are going to organize is very unfortunate. So a comment like this from the words from the mouth of Stanley, who is actually the birthday boy, it's a very surprising, very shocking, not only to McCann, but to all the audience, the readers. But we know that McCann is trying his best to convince Stanley to stay and to be present during the birthday party because so many guests are coming. And Stanley is asking, who are the other guests? McCann, a young lady. Oh, yes. And my friend, your friend? That's right, it's all laid on. So we know it already who the young friend, the other friend of McCann is. It is no other than Goldberg. So this references that it is actually going to happen a kind of a perfect birthday party, and everyone should attend the birthday party. And when the birthday party is going to happen, keeping in mind Stanley, then how can Stanley leave the home on that particular day? And so Stanley couldn't leave actually. So Stanley remained. And then we find conversations take new turns. Stanley get engaged. A very curious reader, a very serious audience can immediately detect that somehow they are plotting, somehow they could manage to keep Stanley there. And they are doing the whole thing deliberately. They are making this whole situation in such a planned way, just like a fly. When the fly is stuck up with honey and the fly cannot move further, is it that, such kind of situation, provocation on the part of McCann and Goldberg and the rest of the members, it is deliberately McCann and Goldberg, that they are trying to make everything easier. They are actually a shallow promise is there on their end that, okay, we are some temporary guests and we would like to enjoy the celebration. We are nobody. We haven't seen you earlier. And there is no specific purpose for which we are here today. So somehow now we see Stanley is misguided. If Stanley could leave the place, probably the whole setup had a different sort of setting. Since Stanley didn't leave the place, he decided to stay with them and to attend the birthday party. So now they are on the right track to make Stanley the victim. Now the whole thing is actually as they were planning together to make this character Stanley to manage in their own way, so we find. So Stanley is gradually now cornered. Stanley is now gradually preparing to be a victim of the whole scenario. And that is something that will be done so deliberately, just like, it's a brainwashing process to prove someone that Mr. Stanley is actually mad. Stanley is not sane. The sanity that Stanley had before the appearance of McCann and Goldberg, it will be ultimately be proved by McCann and Goldberg that Stanley is no longer a man of sanity. And then Stanley will start believing himself that he is an insane. So while reading such kind of passages, not a short film, not a full-length film also at the same time, because the film was made commemorating, and it was dedicated to Satyajit Ray, and the name of the film probably is Ray, R-A-Y. It's a kind of a thriller. A writer for the sake of getting inspiration, he is a thriller writer, okay? It's a Bengali movie, and the writer takes sojourn 3 or 4 days break, and he goes to the North Bengal, Duars. But you know the kind of hotel he takes shelter in, the location where he decided to stay, he found 2 other characters, a man and a woman. Now, several things happen. They get involved to the writer, and they ask the writer, why are you here? What are the reasons for which the writer has come to that place? Now, when they came to know the details of the writer, and they got involved, befriending each other, passing a very good time together, then we found they started manipulating the writer over there, creating certain situation involving the writer in some serious incidents that the author never wanted to be. And the film ends with a very horror-like condition, placing the writer at the point of insanity. The role is played by Shashwato, and Shashwato has played the role so well. And I think more will be known if you watch the movie. And then at the end of the film, we find Shashwato is now have started disbelieving himself, because it is deliberately done. The man then started, thinking of himself that he has gone mad. He is no longer a sane character. So we find that. So the practice, the kind of plan that McCann and Goldberg had, they are also going for that very same kind of pattern. But there is a confusion all the time in the mind of Stanley that somewhere, in some place, probably, they met earlier. So Stanley continuously hammers the very same kind of question. I have got a feeling we have met before, Stanley asks to McCann. No, we haven't. Ever been anywhere near Maidenhead? No. There is a Fuller's tea shop. I used to have my tea there. I don't know it. And the Boots Library, I seem to connect you with the High Street. Yes, a charming town, don't you think? I don't know it. Or no, a quiet, thriving community. I was born and brought up there. I lived well away from the main road. Yes, and there is a pause. But ultimately, the decision remains pending. McCann continuously denies that they ever met before. So they even communicate each other, and we find that later Stanley even attempted to convince McCann and offered him Irish beer and wanted to be very close to him, but no. It was of no use. He couldn't make out the kind of plan they had internally. By this time, situation gets changed. Pitte and Goldberg appear. And it was Pitte's turn to introduce Goldberg with Stanley once again. And they had some very good conversation, but Pitte was in hurry because Pitte had, chess playing session with someone. So since Pitte was not informed earlier, so Pitte said, so I cannot stay with you, I just came to know that you are organizing a birthday party. But I will try my best to come early because I have given my word to someone to play chess. And once Pite and McCann, they were off, then we find this is the session, a conversation, a particular session is going on, exchange of dialogues between Goldberg and Stanley. Now Goldberg shows that he's very cozy, he's very accommodative, very friendly. He starts asking Stanley, a warm night, turning Goldberg, Stanley is very serious now because now he has started feeling that kind of sense that things are getting very, very tough for him. Don't mess me about. So this cannot be the response when someone says, a warm night. And this cannot be the response. Don't mess me about. So Goldberg was astonished. What kind of a response is this? I beg your pardon. Now Stanley is saying, I am afraid there has been a mistake. We are booked out. Your room is taken. Mr. Bowles forgot to tell you. You will have to find somewhere else. Now, for Stanley, it is very much clear that he should take some initiative to put these two characters away from the guest house. They are making trouble for him. Now, on behalf of the owners of the guest house, boarding house, now it seems that Stanley himself is now creating certain, responsibility, that she finding some responsibility on his part. And that's why Stanley is announcing, so Mr. Bowles forgot to tell you, now you have to find your place somewhere, not here at least. You cannot stay here any longer. Goldberg has a very cool-blooded, cold-headed response. Oh, are you the manager here? That's right. Is it a good game? I run the house. I'm afraid you and your friend will have to find other accommodation. Oh, I forgot. I must congratulate you on your birthday. So we find Goldberg not to respond the kind of threat that Stanley thought that would work actually, but actually such kind of threat is in no way working anymore. Stanley thought that it will work well, but actually it was not working at all. Rather, Goldberg is trying to make the whole situation in a different level, congratulating, instead reacting to the kind of threat from Stanley. We find Goldberg is, congratulating Stanley on his birthday. Now, it's a very popular kind of theory of human psychology, of human philosophy, that when someone is trying to make you angry, the moment you get angry, listen to me very carefully. When someone is trying to make you angry, the moment you get angry, that means you are defeated in the argument. So it depends on your capacity, how far, how long you can keep yourself under control. We find every time Stanley is getting angry with the responses when he is conversing either with Goldberg or with McCann. So, but they are very cool. They are never angry with. Since they are never angry with, so they are so planned. They are so accurate in their mission. But on the part of Stanley is already in the back foot only because he is getting very personal all the time and responding in such a way, becoming very angry and excited. So showing too much excitement, expressing your anger immediately on a particular conversation, it actually defeats you in any argument, and that is very practical in any occasion in our life. Situation becomes worse. Very soon, McCann returns. Now, when McCann returns, or before the return of McCann, we find that Goldberg already have started, examining Stanley, asking him certain questions. Mr. Weber, sit down. Stanley, it's no good starting any kind of trouble. Sit down. Why should I? Stanley is again furious. If you want to know the truth, Weber, you are beginning to get on my breast. Really? Well, that's sit down. Stanley is replying, no. So Stanley is shown that he is always furious and he is never quiet. He is never silent. He is never cool. And the conversation continues. Weber, what were you doing yesterday? Stanley says, yesterday? And that day before? What did you do the day before that? Look, such kind of roundabout way questioning actually puzzles you. These are something to make you confused. These are something to get you off your stability. Such very meaningless questions actually destabilizes you. And that is the motto on the part of Goldberg and McCann, to destabilize a character like Stanley. Stanley says, what do you mean? Why are you wasting everybody's time, Weber? Why are you getting in everybody's way? For Stanley, these are meaningless. What is he wasting? What is he doing? What kind of harm Stanley is doing to everybody here that Goldberg is accusing? Me? What are you? I'm telling you, Weber, you are a washout. You are getting on everybody's week. Why are you driving that old lady off her conch? He likes to do it. Why do you behave so badly, Weber? Why do you force that old man out to play chess? Me? Why do you treat the young lady like a leper? She is not the leper, Weber. What do you wear last week, Weber? Now look at the question. Goldberg is asking Stanley, what did you wear last week, Weber? Why do you keep your suits? McCann is asking, why did you leave the organization? These are actually to make the character puzzled. What would you old ma'am say, Weber? McCann, why did you betray us? Goldberg, you hurt me, Weber. You are playing a dirty game. Actually, Goldberg and McCann are playing the dirty game. McCann, that's a black and tan fact. What does he think he is? Who do you think you are? You are on the wrong horse. Look, they are in no way waiting for the replies of Stanley. It's a bombshells. Just like, galaxy of questions thrown upon Stanley. And they are never waiting for any responses. So such kind of way of conversation, it happens only when someone is trying to befool, someone was trying to, make the other person feel confused in every possible way. And look, another, not only intellectual, but physical, disturbances, imbalances are also happening at this very level. What is that? McCann snatches the glasses from Stanley. Stanley tries to reach, but he can't. And then he takes his own chair at the center. Stanley stumbling as he follows. Stanley clutches the chair and stays bent over it. Weber continues. You are a fake. When did you last wash up a cup? No one can remember. When did you last wash up a cup? Is it a question? It is not a question. It is actually making the man funny in his own eyes. It is something that making that man to discover in himself a meaningless existence. But Stanley tries to answer the Christmas before last. Where? Lions Corner House. Which one? Marble Arch. Where was your wife? In. The answer is not complete. Answer. Stanley. What wife? What have you done with your wife? McCann. He has killed his wife. Why did you kill your wife? Stanley. What wife? How did you kill her? How did you kill her? You throttled her with arsenic. There is you, man. Where is your old mom? Look, once again, galaxy of questions, and most of the questions are meaningless. And they will not stop until or unless the man is insane. Everything is in our brain, actually. A man behaves normally only because of the brain. When the brain gets paralyzed, he starts behaving abnormally. So if it is possible to make the brain paralyzed, if the brain can be malfunctioned, then the mission is complete. Goldberg continues, the bombshells. You betray our breed. Who are you, Weber? No one knows. It's such an, existential question. X, Y, Z. If you ask a person called S, who are you? Why are you? For which there is no question, there is no answer. Now, Goldberg makes that very existential question. What makes you think you exist? McCann is now on that very crucial question. You are dead. Goldberg is saying, you are dead. You can't live. You can't think. You can't love. You are dead. You are a plague gone bad. There is no juice in you. You are nothing but an order. And then comes silence. Look, this is a kind of a machinery. This is a kind of a practice to make an individual feel that he or she is nobody. What happens at the end of Act 2? We know the character. Meg appears later. Birthday party gets arranged. And it was Lulu who makes an arrangement for a game. What kind of a game? Blind man's buff. Now, blind man's buff is something, a portion of cloth is tied up on the eyes and the man will search for the next one. And then the game continues. And it continues till the man is able to touch the next one. And they all try to keep themselves away from the person whose eyes are tied up. Now, this one is very symbolic here in birthday party. First of all, that Stanley is already or almost like a blind when he is without any glass. If Stanley doesn't have a glass or pair of glasses, he's already just like a blind man. So what is the use of when you are snatching the glasses away and making the man a kind of a victim of or a kind of a, very funny buffoon character like the blind man's buff game is on? What is the use of it? So this blindness is symbolic in many ways. And not only that, the word buff is also significant here. Buff means a bit push. So Goldberg and McCann, not only metaphorically, but also intellectually, making a kind of a push to Stanley up to that very level that Stanley is no longer a sane character. He becomes a man of insanity. This, extreme point from where one can be considered mad up to that very level, McCann and Goldberg, they do their best. They make the mind, mentality, psychology of Stanley, that Stanley should think now on that he is no longer a man of fixity, rather a man of imbalance. If this is one part of the discussion, we also know that this total setup is made in such a way that Harold Pinter would like to make the audience also blind regarding the protagonist Stanley and what Stanley is going to face in near future. It is also a kind of a technique on the part of the playwright to make the audience blind in that same way. And we are also in no way informed in Act 2 what is going to happen to Stanley in Act 3 and what Goldberg and McCann are planning to do with Stanley in near future. So this Act 2 is that very extreme position. It is very serious and it makes a sense of suspense all through. And it creates a sense of horror, threat, meaninglessness. And also, this section is so important. It helps one to know that how can one be, one can transform a normal individual up to the level of insanity. That much I had to discuss today of Harold Pinter's play, The Birthday Party, Act 2. So thank you so much for your patient listening.